The wind right now is blowing this freezing rain right into my eyes, and it hurts.
Hi, my name is Jack, and this is the story of my calendar year Triple Crown hike, a 9.5-month journey along the Appalachian, Pacific Crest, and Continental Divide trails. It takes most hikers 4 to 6 months to complete just one of these trails, but I must complete all 3 before December 31st. To put the challenge into perspective, more people have been to the moon than have completed a calendar year Triple Crown.
It's snowing still.
I'd had pretty good luck with avoiding snow and bad winter weather, mostly receiving just a ton of rain, but my luck was about to run out as I started into the state of Vermont.
It's really starting to come down. I am really having a good time today. It's incredibly beautiful out here. Past really cool lake, and just with the snow coming down and the snow-covered trees in the background, it's like Christmas. This is October Mountain Shelter. Take lunch in here. Got some cheese, pepperonis. Ooh, got some shelled pecans. Soon as the sun set, temperature dropped like 10 degrees. It's well below 30 now. Got little blisters forming at the top of the feet. Yeah, they've just been wet every single day since the last day of Pennsylvania. The old shoes versus the new shoes. Pieces coming off. It's about 600 miles on these. Goodbye shoes. Climbing up to Mount Greylock now. It is the highest peak in Massachusetts. The climbs in Massachusetts have been pretty well graded. There's been a good amount of climbing, like 6,000 feet of gain per day. But yeah, just not as steep of a grade, so that makes a huge difference in how it feels and how fast you go. I switched out my shoes about every 500 to 700 miles. It just depended on how much tread was left on the shoe, and then also just on resupply points. Sometimes you make the shoes go a little bit further, or sometimes you change them a little earlier, just depending on where the towns are. This is the summit of Mount Greylock. That monument was built in 1932 as a tribute as a memorial for soldiers. Grateful recognition of the loyalty and sacrifice of her sons and daughters in war. They were faithful even unto death. It's getting dark and stormy looking. It's gonna start raining here in the next hour or two, it looks like. Still have like 9 miles to the shelter. I am in Vermont. This is actually the southern terminus of the long trail. You can see the weather's pretty shitty. Got 3 miles to the next shelter. The wind right now is blowing this freezing rain right into my eyes, and it hurts. So it's really hard to see because it's like getting stabbed with 1,000 little I don't know, balls of ice in your eyeballs. The wind is probably 30 to 40 miles per hour right now. And of course, I've hardly seen a single hiker for like the last 1,000 miles, but the one night that the storm gets really bad, the shelter is full. So I ended up having to set up my tent outside, trying to use the shelter as a little wind block, and yeah,
Didn't get much sleep that night. It's quite hard to motivate yourself to get up and get going when the weather is so crappy, especially packing up in the snow when everything is wet. But this is one of the things I came out here for. On my other hikes, I've been able to hike in better weather windows and pick and choose when I'm out. So, when you see a big storm coming, you just stay in town. And I wanted to not be afraid of snow, not be afraid of bad weather, not be afraid of rain. So this year it forced me to get out in there, and then what you really realize is once you're out, once you're up and moving around, it's really not so bad. If you have the proper gear, the proper layers, it's really not that bad. It's just so much worse in your mind than the reality actually is. Although today, this day, was a pretty terrible, very slow, treacherous hike, and I was pretty happy to get into town.
This is the Congdon shelter. It's really nice. It's got windows, bunk beds.
But even though it was cold and wet and I was a little miserable, I still made it. It wasn't a big deal.
It's pretty slow going. It's like 1.5 to 2 miles per hour. I'm ready to be inside, get dry. Alright, I am in the Catamount Motel. Owner is really nice, hiker friendly. He picked me up from the trailhead. Now I need to figure out what I'm going to do for dinner before I get showered and cleaned up. And yeah, I have never been happier to be in a motel room. Entering the Glastonberry Wilderness. Climbing up Glastonberry Mountain.
Glastonberry Mountain is a really interesting place. It is part of what is known as the Bennington Triangle because of all the strange activity around it. The Native Americans believe that this area was cursed. There's an Algonquin legend that warns of a malevolent stone in the mountains that would open up and devour anyone unlucky enough to step on it. This area has had strange UFO activity, Bigfoot sightings, strange lights and sounds, and there were 5 people that disappeared mysteriously during the 1940s and 1950s. There was what's called the Bennington Monsters. One of the first reported sightings occurred early in the 1800s. It was a stagecoach full of passengers, which was forced to stop on a washed-out road. The stage driver noticed huge footprints in the mud that were too large to be human, and then the coach was attacked by a giant creature who knocked the vehicle on its side. I think the most compelling cases are the disappearances that happened on the trail. So in 1946, 18-year-old college student Paula Weldon went hiking on the Long Trail. She was last seen by an elderly couple. They were hiking about 100 yards behind her, and the couple that had seen her said that she seemingly disappeared after she turned a corner on the trail. There was an extensive search conducted, rewards were put out, but they never found her. They never found any trace of her, no body, nothing like that. She just seemingly disappeared off the face of the planet. I think the strangest disappearance during this time was James Tetford, a veteran. He disappeared December 1st, 1949. He had been stationed in St. Albans, visiting relatives and returning home on a bus when he vanished. According to witnesses, he was one of 14 passengers on the bus at the last stop before arriving in Bennington. However, when the bus arrived, he was gone. His belongings were still in the luggage rack, and his seat was vacant, but no one had seen him get off the bus, and he didn't disembark in the last bus. So he got on the bus went to Bennington, it didn't stop anywhere, and he somehow disappeared off of a moving bus. So knowing this strange history, I planned to be up and over the mountain before dark. I didn't want to be in that area in the dark, but the snow slowed me down so much that it was pretty much exactly where I didn't want to be, walking through it in the dark, thinking about all those people that disappeared and why, what happened, what got them.
Home sweet home. Packing up. Night it got down to like 20-21 degrees. My pad
So I kept hearing this crinkling. I thought maybe like a mouse or something was messing with me, but then I just heard this pop and the top baffle in my pad popped, which that's not too bad. That actually gives me like a built-in pillow. And it still retains its air, but it might be time to replace this after the AT just so I don't have a failure.
So with it being so cold last night, the snow is nice and frozen, so it's much easier walking. It's kind of counterintuitive with the snow. That warmer weather is not always good, because then the snow melts or gets meltier, then you just break through the crust. I'm trying to avoid a bunch of water right now.
Beaver house.
It's another thing out here. There's snow covering all, the trail is still a river underneath all this. And then you punch through and then your feet just get soaked in icy water.
This is Stratton Pond.
Oh well. Holy shit. This sunset, man. Wow. I am so excited to be on this part of the AT. Like, it was starting to become a drag going through New York, New Jersey, and just pointless ups and downs and bogs and swamps. But man, it is so cool. Like, it's gonna get really hard, but you're finally gonna be rewarded for all your efforts. Like, what an incredible view.
Walking down into Hanover now. This is somebody's house. Look at all. How many windows and garages do you need?
Crossing over the bridge. I forget the name of this river, but this is the border between Vermont and New Hampshire. Here it is. Into New Hampshire. The Dartmouth campus back here. Ivy League school.
This is the Trapper John shelter. I'm actually here before it got dark. That's a novelty.
Due to the way the miles worked out, I had an early evening, so I found this shelter with an old abandoned fireplace, and there was some firewood right there dried out, so I built myself a nice fire, and that was a rare treat to be able to enjoy.
Oh yeah, getting pretty icy.
Didn't realize there was a cabin up here at the top of Sparse Mountain. Should have pushed here last night. But that's okay. I'm gonna take lunch. Keep moving.
Feels like winter. Climbing up Cube Mountain now. And it's still a mix of frozen rain and snow. Probably move to all snow as I get higher up again.
Here's the Mount Cube summit, 2909. Not much of a view.
Welcome to New Hampshire. I've got 6 or 7 miles and I'm gonna go to a hostel. So weather never seems as big of a deal when you know that there's a warm place you can go, get dry, shower. My shoes, socks, feet are soaked. Been soaked for the whole day. But I'm actually staying pretty warm. As long as I keep moving, it's not a big deal. Yeah, just gonna keep moving. My water bottle's in here so my filter doesn't freeze. I'm only at maybe 1,500 feet right now. Probably be pretty miserable on these 4,000 foot mountains in this weather. Wow, it's so beautiful. Wow, it's so pretty. Mount Mist, 2,200, 2230 feet. 3 more miles. Today has taken much longer than I thought it would. Oh well.